I thought my wife was cheating and I abandoned her for over 500 days, never knowing she was secretly fighting cancer. She never blamed me, and instead did something that made me regret everything. The ceiling fan was still on when I came back. It was the first thing I noticed. Not the dust, not the boxes, not the smell of my past rotting on the carpet. The fan just spun slow, senseless, as if it were waiting for me. I had not set foot in that apartment in over a year. Not since I left with a backpack, a half-dead phone, and no plan. I did not even close the blinds. I just left quietly, cowardly, like a raccoon scurrying away from a garbage can. I did not tell her. I did not leave a note. I disappeared from my own life. I thought that if I faded away enough, maybe I could convince myself that I never existed here in the first place. But the fan was still on. It turned my stomach. I stood in the doorway longer than I should have, watching the blades. They creaked on every fourth rotation. They used to drive her crazy. She said it felt like the apartment was trying to whisper things to her in Morse code. I used to laugh. Now it sounded like it was whispering to me. I did not come back because I missed her. I did not come back because I had hope. I came back because I had a nightmare in which this place was filled with water and her body was floating near the ceiling. I woke up gasping, believing I had heard her say my name. Not with love, not with anger, just as a question. I did not know what I expected to find. Maybe a room stripped of her scent, maybe her ghost, maybe the police waiting with a "Hey, buddy, you forgot your responsibilities." But instead I found silence and the fan. I dropped my bag. The echo startled me. The only piece of furniture left was the chair she always said she hated, but never got rid of. It was still facing the window, as if she could walk in at any second and sit down. Pretend I never left. Ask what I want for dinner as if nothing had happened. I went to find the light switch, and that is when I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. My heart jumped. I had not told anyone I was coming back, not a soul. There was not even supposed to be electricity. I walked towards the door as if I were underwater, and when I opened it, she was there. It was not a hallucination. It was not a memory. Tisa. The same eyes, the same silence. But this time she was the one holding the letter. The letter I never sent. The one I left on the kitchen table the day I disappeared, and I could not breathe. She should not have known I was here. That is the part my brain kept screaming as I stood frozen in the doorway, face to face with the woman I had abandoned without a single word. I had changed everything. My number, my mailing address, even my damn haircut. I used a fake last name on the rental papers. I made sure they could not find me, and yet somehow she had found me. Not months later, not after a long chase, but on the exact day I returned. I wanted to ask how in reality I wanted to scream it, but my mouth was full of sand and my thoughts were tripping over each other. Instead, the only thing I managed to say was, "Why?" She did not answer at first. She just looked past me into the apartment, scanning the place as if checking if I had rearranged the ghosts. Then, still holding the yellowed envelope that I had left behind, she walked past me without permission and sat in that same hated chair by the window. I did not stop her. I could not. She looked thinner, not sick, but as if something had been draining her from the inside out. Her hair was longer, but she wore it in a messy bun that did not suit her. And she was wearing the red coat, the one I bought her in Portland, the one she swore she would never wear because she was not into dramatic colors. She held the letter in her lap as if it were radioactive. I could see the edge of my messy handwriting peeking out from the fold. She had not opened it. Not yet. I did not read it, she said finally in a low voice. I kept it, but I did not read it. I did not know what that meant. Was it supposed to be mercy, a warning, a proof that she still cared? I wanted to sit down to ask her everything, to say nothing, to slam the door and run away, all at the same time. Instead, I stood there like a broken doorman, not knowing if I was letting someone in or watching myself get thrown out. You were not supposed to come back here, she added. Her voice was flatter now, more subdued, as if she were reading a script she had rehearsed in her head too many times. I did not plan to, I said, and it sounded pathetic. I had a dream. I needed to check. She nodded slowly, as if that explained something. Then she looked down at the letter, running her fingers along the edge. You were gone for 504 days, she said. I held my breath. She had counted. Not 500, not a little over a year, not since last spring. I came because it is your turn to carry the weight. Then she placed the letter on the windowsill and stood up. I need you to read it now. And just like that, she walked out the door. No hug, no breakdown, no dramatic pause. She just left, and I was left staring at the same envelope with which I had once abandoned her, except now it felt like a loaded gun. I did not touch the envelope for 2 hours. I just stared at it, still propped up on the windowsill like a dare. The same paper, the same bent corner. I remembered folding it too quickly. My fingers sticky with wood glue, dirt under my fingernails. I wrote that letter with dirty hands, and now it was there like a relic, as if it had been waiting all this time to become dangerous. The apartment was darker. Now the sun had dipped behind the neighboring buildings, casting long, sad shadows across the floor. The ceiling fan was still turning, a slow, hypnotic whisper in the background, and the chair she sat in creaked slightly whenever the wind blew through the cracked window. I sat on the floor with my back to the wall, my knees pulled up like a child trying to disappear. My chest felt hollow and heavy at the same time. It had been so long since I had cried that my body had forgotten how, but I felt something pressing behind my eyes, as if knocking on a door. The only thing I kept thinking was, she did not come here to forgive me. She did not come to hurt me either. No, it was worse than that. She came to transfer something heavy, something awful. And she did it without yelling, without accusing, without even raising her voice. That terrified me more than anything. Finally, my knees gave out, and I stood up. My hands were shaking as I reached for the letter. It was not even sealed anymore. The flap had come loose as if it had aged with guilt. I pulled out the paper, unfolded it slowly, and stared at my own handwriting. Erratic, slanted, pathetic. Tisa, I cannot find the words. I have tried. I have rewritten this 5 times, but nothing I say makes me less of a coward. You don't deserve to hear this in a letter, but I cannot face you. I saw the messages. I saw him. I know. And maybe I pushed you to it. Maybe not, but I know I cannot stay. I don't know who you are anymore. I don't know who I'm when I'm with you. I love you. I hate this. I'm sorry. Do not look for me, please. Finn. That was it. That is all I had left her. A weak assumption. A child's escape route. And now I was reading it again, like a man opening his own grave. But here is the thing. She said she had not read it. She had carried it all this time, but never opened it. Which meant she did not know what I saw. She did not know why I left. Which meant, what the hell was she talking about? I sat back down in the chair with the letter trembling in my hand, my heart pounding against my ribs as if it wanted out. I started to go over everything, every moment, every silence, every sideways glance I ever misinterpreted. What did I miss? What did she think happened that day? And why did she say it was my turn to carry the weight? I had not seen her since. No messages, no other knock on the door. Just a ghost with perfect timing who came to deliver something invisible and then vanished into the night like a myth. But she knew something I did not. And that letter, my letter, was only half the story. I don't know what scared me more. The fact that she showed up or the feeling that this was just the beginning. I did not sleep that night. Not for a minute. I lay on the floor because the couch was gone and the bed did not feel like mine anymore. The fan above me kept turning as if it did not care that the world had tilted sideways. My letter was folded back on the windowsill, and every time I closed my eyes I saw her face. Not the face I remembered from all those silent dinners or sleepy mornings. I saw last night's face. Expressionless, exhausted, surgical. She had looked at me like someone examining a wound that would not close. At 5:42 in the morning, I was sitting outside the apartment with a coffee in one hand and my phone in the other, staring at her contact information, the number I told myself I had deleted, but had memorized too well to forget. I had not used it in over a year. What was I going to say? Hi. I was just wondering what you meant when you shattered my world and left, but I did not have to wonder for long. At 6:13 a.m. text message came in from no name, just a local number I did not recognize. You never asked who he was. I dropped my phone. Not metaphorically, I literally dropped it from my hand, and it landed face down on the cement. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my gums. She knew. She knew I had seen something back then, that I had left because of someone, and yet last night, she said she had not read the letter. So how did she know? Unless she had lied. I called the number, no answer. I tried again. Voicemail with no name. Just the mechanical voice of a system that did not care about ruined lives. I did not leave a message. I just stood there with the phone pressed to my forehead trying to remember if I had ever actually confirmed the affair or if I just assumed it, because I could not stand not being loved out loud anymore. What if I was wrong? What if I left her over a theory? That is when the second message came. You always looked for the worst explanation, Finn. You never gave me a chance to offer a better one. I stared at it for what felt like an hour. It was her. It had to be her. No one else would say something like that. No one else knew how easily guilt dug under my skin like a tick. But still, something did not add up. If she wanted clarity, why now? Why not a week after I left? A month? Why track me down now, 504 days later? Just to drop a guilt bomb and walk away like a prophet. I had no answers, so I went back inside. The letter was where I left it, but it felt heavier now, as if it were mocking me. I unfolded it again, rereading my own cowardice, but this time something stood out that I had not noticed before. In the bottom right corner of the page, there was something faint, a single curved indent in the paper, as if a fingernail had pressed into it, as if someone had held it too tightly, trying not to cry or not to scream. And then I saw it, barely visible in the light, a number scribbled in pencil, almost erased. Room 317. I did not write that. She did, and I did not know what room, or where, or why. But I suddenly knew one thing for sure. This was not over. This was not regret. This was a breadcrumb trail. And somehow I had just taken the first step on a story I thought I had ended. Yes, I spent the next 4 hours looking for a room that did not exist. The number haunted me. I stared at it until I felt it was burned into my vision. Room 317. Written so lightly, I almost convinced myself it was an accident. But something deep in my chest told me it was not. Tisa did not do things accidentally. Every silence she ever gave me had a shape, an intention. She wanted me to see that number. She wanted me to follow it, so I did. There were only 3 places I could think of. First, the hotel we stayed at once during a blizzard on the way to her cousin's wedding. I drove an hour there only to find it had been demolished last fall. Then the hospital where her sister worked. I made up a lie about visiting someone. I wandered the halls like a ghost, trying not to look like I was casing the joint, but there was no room 317. The numbers jumped from 316 to 318 like a bad joke. By the time I got to the 3rd place, her old campus, my hands were shaking. The university was mostly shut down for the summer break, but I knew the buildings. I remembered walking those halls with her once while she told me all the things she was going to do with her life. She wanted to teach creative writing, change lives, be the professor who really listened. That dream never came true, at least not while I was in her life. I found my way to the humanities building, the one with the creaky floors and the buzzing light switches. 3rd floor, room 317. Except there was a problem. It was not a classroom. It was not even labeled. The number plate had been scraped off and replaced with a small, crooked sticker that just said storage. The door was locked. Of course it was. I stood there sweating through my shirt, staring at the door as if it might blink. I knocked once, twice, nothing. I put my ear to it. Silence. Not the quiet kind, the dead kind. Like there was nothing behind that door, not even air. I don't know how long I stood there, my hand hovering over the doorknob, my heart screaming something I could not quite translate, but I knew I could not break in. Not yet. Not when I did not know what I was getting into. So I walked away, back down those echoing halls, out into the heavy afternoon air that seemed to hate me. And that is when I got the 3rd message, no name, no punctuation. You never asked what happened after you left. I stared at it for a long time, standing on the sidewalk, outside a building that might have held something or nothing at all. Her messages were not angry. They were not even cryptic. They were measured, each one like a blade slowly carving a hole where my certainty used to be. The worst part is she was right. I never asked. I never wanted to know what happened after I left because deep down I believed she deserved whatever pain came next. I thought I was the hurt one, the betrayed one, the victim, but now that belief was rotting. I walked 3 miles back to my apartment. I did not take the bus. I did not call a friend. I needed the ache in my legs to distract me from the ache between my ribs. When I got back, there was an envelope slipped under my door, no name, just one line written on the front in the same soft pencil. Please stop pretending you were the only one who was shattered. I did not open it. Not yet, because I was starting to realize that this was not about her forgiving me or me forgiving her. It was about the truth. And maybe, just maybe, I was the one who had spent the last 504 days believing the biggest lie of all. I sat with the envelope in my lap for over an hour before I opened it. Not because I was afraid of what was inside, but because I already knew. The same way you know a storm is coming before you hear the thunder, that whatever I found in there would open something in me that I could not close again. The paper was thin, yellowed at the edges, as if it had been handled too much. There were 3 sheets inside. The first was a handwritten list, neat, dated. June 10th, your mother called. I did not answer. June 13th, canceled the lease. They did not ask why. June 18th, threw out your toothbrush. Cried afterwards. July 3rd, check the river. I had to. That last line, check the river, made my whole body go cold. I stared at the words, unable to process what I was reading. I turned to the second page. It was not a letter, it was not even for me. It was a transcript. A therapy transcript. I could tell by the structure. Her words, a therapist's notes in parentheses, long pauses. Some of the sentences were blacked out with a marker, but not very well. I could still read through the ink if I squinted. He left without saying goodbye. Pause. 5 seconds. I did not cheat on him. He thought I did. Maybe that was easier for him than asking why I stopped touching him. Tears. Client covers her face. I stopped touching him because I was afraid he would feel it. The lump. I found it in April. I never told him. I dropped the page. Physically dropped it as if it had burned me. My first instinct was to deny it, to rationalize it, to tell myself it was not real, but I knew her handwriting. And I remembered that spring, how she started wearing baggy sweaters even when the weather got warmer. How she would flinch when I touched her left side. How she smiled too hard at my bad jokes, as if she were playing the part of a healthy person long enough for me to not notice. I did notice. I just did not want to ask, and so I made up my own explanation. A lover, a betrayal, something I could hate instead of something I had to grieve. The third page was blank, except for one sentence in the middle. He did not leave me. He left what he was afraid to see. I don't know how long I sat there, hunched over, holding those pages like evidence of a crime I did not realize I had committed. My mind looped, digging trenches in the same memory over and over, trying to figure out how much of this I actually remembered and how much I had rewritten to make myself the victim. Because that is what I had done. Had I not taken her silence, her distance, her pain, and turned it into a narrative that suited me, one where I was the heartbroken, the betrayed, the tragic figure? But in reality, I had been something worse. I had been deliberately blind, a coward with enough pride to abandon her rather than face what her body might reveal. And maybe that is why she knocked on my door. Not for revenge, not for pity, but to hand the truth back to me, sharp and warm like blood, so I could carry it for once, because she had carried it alone for 504 days. Now it was mine. And as I sat there, surrounded by paper and dust and the fan turning overhead, I realized something else. Room 317 did not hold a secret. I did. And now that secret was awake. I don't remember falling asleep, but I do remember waking up. It was completely dark. The kind of dark that makes you forget what time it is. The air was still, as if the apartment itself had stopped breathing. The fan was off. That is what woke me up, the silence. I sat up on the floor with the paper stuck to my cheek, disoriented and sweating. The envelope had fallen off the windowsill. My own words scattered next to hers like puzzle pieces from different boxes. I fumbled for the light switch. Nothing. The power was out. I grabbed my phone. 1:44 a.m. 2 missed calls. Unknown number. Unknown number. And a new message. Not a text, just a picture. It was blurry, taken in motion, but I knew what it was. I saw a hallway. That same third floor in the humanities building, the old, scratched door. Room 317. The picture was taken from inside the room. I could not breathe. Whoever sent it had access, which meant either she had a key or someone else was inside now, and they wanted me to know it. I pulled on a hoodie. I barely tied my shoes, and I ran out of the apartment. The streets were dead. The cold wind on my face like a punishment. I did not stop moving. I did not think. I just repeated one thought over and over. You left her. You don't get to walk away again. When I arrived, the building was locked. Of course it was, but the side window was broken. Old security, barely functional. I had seen her sneak in through it once, laughing, drunk on boxed wine and poetry. I followed the same path. I cut my arm on the sill. I did not care. The hallway smelled like old paper and detergent. I took the stairs 2 at a time. 3rd floor. The same shadows. The same humming silence. Room 317. Open. I pushed the door slowly. No dramatic creak. No background music. Just a soft click as the door gave way. Inside was not a storage closet. Not anymore. The room had been cleared out. No boxes, no shelves, just one chair in the center and a table with something on it. A video camera, an old, mid-2000s model with the battery pack taped to the side. Next to it, a stack of mini tapes, labeled, dated. I walked closer, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. One tape was already loaded. There was a sticky note on it. Press play. Just listen. My fingers hesitated, trembling slightly over the worn-out buttons. I did not want to know. I did not want to know. My whole identity had been built around a version of her I could handle, a version that justified my running away. But now I was here, and she had brought me back for a reason. I pressed play. The camcorder hissed static. Then her voice, quieter, younger, clearer than I remembered. June 25th. I think I have accepted it. It is real, the diagnosis. They told me today it has not spread yet, but I will need surgery soon. I have not told Finn. I keep thinking that if I wait one more day, maybe I will find a better way to say it, or maybe I will not have to. He is already pulling away. He already imagines me with someone else. Maybe that is easier than imagining me sick. He needs a villain, not a patient. And if I disappear, at least he will have a story that makes sense to him. I hit pause. I could not listen anymore, because every word was a brick to the ribs. She knew. She knew exactly how I would rewrite her silence. And instead of fighting it, she let me go. She let me believe it was a betrayal because that version of her was easier for me to leave. She gave me permission to hate her because she loved me that much. I sank into the chair, dizzy. The camcorder still hummed faintly. The tapes, a whole stack, were untouched. How many more were there? How many entries had she recorded, documenting the slow, cruel way I disappeared from her life? And why leave them now? Why bring me back to this room, to this evidence, after so long? That is when I saw the last note, stuck to the underside of the chair. It was barely lit, but I could make out the handwriting. The truth is not what you remember. It is what you are willing to admit. I did not cry, not because I was strong, but because I was finally empty. I stayed in that room until sunrise. I did not watch all the tapes. I could not. Not yet. It felt like walking through a museum of someone I once knew and did not deserve. But I sat with them. I touched each one, read the dates. They spanned almost a year, all after I left. She had never tried to find me, not through friends, not through family, not directly, but she had recorded herself. The pain, the treatment, the loneliness, the moments of joy so small they could barely fit between the words. And she had waited, not for revenge, not for closure, but for this, for me to listen. And now I had. I took the tapes home, all of them. I placed them carefully in a shoebox and wrote, "Hours," on the lid with a black marker. Then I did something I had not done in over 500 days. I picked up the phone and called her. No games, no preambles, no pride. She answered on the second ring. No hesitation, as if she had been waiting for me. Neither of us spoke at first. Just breathing, just a silence that for once was not cruel. Finally, I said it. "I'm ready to meet you again, if you will let me." She did not cry. I think she had already cried all the tears she had before I knew how to show up. She just said, "Okay." That was 3 months ago. Since then, we have seen each other 3 times. No pressure, no pretending we are the same people we were before. She is in remission now. She told me on the second visit, while we were eating grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, the way some people mention a canceled dentist appointment. She never blamed me, not once. That was the hardest part. But she did say one thing I will not forget. "You don't have to rewrite my story anymore. Just ask." So I do. Every week I ask a little more. What happened? How did it feel? What did I miss? What did she endure alone? And sometimes we just sit in silence, next to each other, not touching, not needing to, because this time the silence is not condemnation, it is just rest. Last weekend, I brought her a new chair, one she would not hate, made of walnut, with soft angles and a fabric she picked out herself. I left it by her window. I did not say a word. She smiled as if it were the right kind of unfinished sentence, and this time, before I left, I said goodbye, gently, but I said it. And she said, "See you next Sunday."